Hi, I'm Sarah Louise, and yeah, I wanted to talk about a little technique that I have found by accident. I'm sure it's out there, but that really has helped me actually with really going deep into some of my core wounds. So I think I said in the last video that I had an interaction with one of my really strong soul connections that made me feel a certain way. It wasn't a good way, right? It made me feel, um, but we had this like honest communication about it and opened up a lot. And, we agreed to like kind of meet up and, try and find like, the balance or whatever it'll be. But so I wrote down, I actually thought, you know what, I'm not doing like another push and pull cycle ever again. And I wrote down a list of bullet points that I wanted to bring up in so how certain behaviors made me feel. And I literally, wrote down all the behaviors that had annoyed me and made me feel a certain way. And I was doing it in a very non-accusatory way. So it was very much like, when this happened, that made me feel like this. But then I realized actually how much potential it was. And I realized that a lot of them I didn't actually even need to voice. It was just a really good process for myself. And I noticed that when I really went into them, like in depth, I realized it was just one like core wound that ran over all of them, basically. And it just was a really good way of doing it. So I literally just, and I think that you could get a lot of benefit out of doing this. So if you have a connection with somebody, just like writing down everything that they do that triggers you and annoys you and makes you super upset, like just write them all down. But rather than like the blame game, because I purposely wasn't coming from that angle, like come at it from like, this was how that behavior made me feel. And there was something really powerful about not just doing one, but doing the list, going all out and doing it all, because I kept going back and adding to it. And then I actually realized that every single one, even though they initially seemed quite different, came back to not feeling valued. And they were quite, the things that happened were very far away, you might think, when they were first written, from not feeling valued. But when I really went like deep with them all, I truly could see this like core thing of just not feeling valued. And then I looked at myself and I thought, where do I not value myself? And that's really easy, really obvious to see that I've overgiven to situations and then obviously felt resentful because I didn't feel like, that was valued enough. Even in my workplace, like I can't even count the amount of photo shoots that I've done in the past where I used to just like give and give and give and not like have boundaries and say like, actually you can't have that many pictures or I felt like I was accepting discount shoots and I just like generally was always working for what I felt was giving too much for not receiving enough back. So then of course that ends up in like a feeling of resentment and it's not a good not a good feeling to be in. And then when you feel like unvalued, like your energy is not good, it doesn't make the other person respond very well. So yeah, I realized that my not feeling valued was purely down to me not valuing myself enough, not just in that situation, just in all situations in life. And then you can probably go back to your childhood and see like maybe how like one of your parents like was resentful because they felt like they were overgiving and the other person wasn't really like appreciating that. And then to go even deeper with this exercise, I then thought, well, I thought I'd see like turn it back onto myself. So I was like, do you value and appreciate when other people do things for you? And the answer is no, I don't. That's like a really big thing that I don't actually do. And I don't even know why. And I still have to like mirror that on a deeper level as to why I feel so so uncomfortable appreciating and valuing other people. And it's something to do with like expression or I don't know, there really is a block there, and that's something that I haven't got to the bottom of. But I actually, when I was truly honest with myself, I could accept that I do not fully value and appreciate when other people have done a lot for me. So to counteract that, I could go out into my day and I could try and like say thank you to somebody, you know, like maybe a friend that's like listened to me for like ages, you know, upset over something, or you know, and I actually thought, how many times out of my day do I actually sit down and say, you know, thank you for that, that was really kind. And appreciation doesn't have to be this huge like Gucci bag. It just needs to be whatever the other person's language is, where they will feel appreciated. It might be a small gift, or a thank you, or just just like a it's an appreciation. And I think this is quite often like a big divide, like in men and women, or masculine and feminine. You know, it's quite common for like one person in a relationship, and it's not always a woman, to overgive, and deep down, like it might not be like at the time it feels quite unconditional, but deep down there's this like feeling of maybe, you know, or maybe if I give more, I'll be appreciated more. But what that does is that just like kind of gets you the opposite thing, because you're not appreciating yourself or valuing yourself. And then eventually you will become resentful, and then that will be like a horrible energy for the person who, you know, will, and you know, even in longer term relationships, you know, you do get these dynamics where one person tends to like nag because they don't feel appreciated, so it turns to aggression, and then the other person feels engulfed and suffocated, and they don't want to spend any time in the relationship, and the divide grows more and more apart, and some people just live like that forever, and some people like divorce one another. But I think this value is actually a really key thing that a lot of us experience in connection situationships, or whatever people have got going on. And it's not about filling the gap or telling the person they need to appreciate you more. It's just about appreciating yourself more, and then that will naturally come back. Of course you can express it, if you can do it in like a really calm way and just say, you know, when you do this, it doesn't make me feel very valued. But ultimately it is you that's going to have to make the shift and start valuing yourself, even as an inner shift. That's all it takes, is really an inner shift of, yeah, I'm going to fully value myself, I'm going to fully value my time, you know, and then you don't have to have this stuff showing up in the external reality. So I think that's a really powerful exercise. It really took me like a massive leap forward just to really sit through all the behavior that I didn't like, that my connection was doing, but not focusing on blaming, focusing on how it made me feel. And yeah, then looking at how actually maybe I'm not doing those things in my own life, and how I'm not giving them to myself. So yeah, hope that, you know, let me know how that exercise goes if anyone gives it a try, and bye.